So some comments on the passage I read. What is phenomenology supposed to let us see? He says, it's obviously not something that's already well seen, but it is something that is latent in what is seen. In fact, it is the meaning and ground of what is seen. So I'm saying that it's the presence of the present. We see what is present, but we don't notice the very presence of the present. Let me go down here. So the phenomenological concept of phenomenon, self-showing, this I think etymologically means something like shining, right? The objects show themselves. So instead of us being in a gallery of representations, the objects, it's almost like the objects radiate their being. Dasein as disclosure, as aletheia, is almost like the opening in which objects can show themselves, but more exactly, consciousness is this showing of the objects. Consciousness is the presence of the transcendent object. So consciousness is the opposite of internal stuff. Consciousness is the being of transcendent life world objects. So this would be object-oriented in a certain sense. Now it gets more complicated because flesh and blood humans are sites of the world's revelation. A flesh and blood living person who is conscious. As flesh and blood person, they are an entity in the world. They can see their own face in the mirror. They can talk to others. Others can see them and talk to them. But you could say as consciousness, they are a streaming face of the world. They are the ground and the being and the presence of the world. And the world is present with from a point of viewness. So he says here, the being of beings can least of all be something behind which something else stands, something that does not appear. So I think this is a direct attack on the appearance reality distinction. So in a previous video I talked about Larry making an appearance at a party. Larry was there. Larry stopped by. Larry was there for 10 minutes. Larry appeared. Now Larry was there. A moment of Larry was present. Larry was not exhausted in this appearance. He may have been exhausted, he may have been tired, but Larry as a being showed himself at this party. He made an appearance. Now the being of Larry, you might say, is spread out over time. Larry can be kind of viewed as a sequence of moments. That's a relatively crude oversimplification. But you can see how being and time are entangled here. Larry is this enduring interpersonal entity. Larry cannot show all of Larry in one 10-minute visitation